yourself and to our audience.
Sure. So my name's Warren Driechel. I'm the new Chief of Police for the Edmonton Police Service. I've been with the Edmonton Police Service for over 28 years. I've worked in a variety of different roles, everything from frontline operations to investigations to kind of different leadership roles in my 28 years. I've been a resident of Edmonton for over 35 years. I didn't grow up in Edmonton. I was born south of Edmonton, grew up in a rural community. And, I think it was kind of in my high school years, I started to think about becoming a police officer and, tried to work towards that goal. I did a lot of volunteer work as a teenager and as a young adult in kind of looking at different types of law enforcement, whether it was victim services or as a special constable for the RCMP. Really kind of understand, what policing was about. Was it for me, and was it a good fit for me? I'm married. Been married to the same person for my entire marriage since I started policing. 2 daughters who have since grown up and gone to university and are out of the house. And becoming the Chief of Police, it's a daunting task. It's a big role. I think I had a good view of that over the last couple of years being a deputy chief within the police service, but really appreciating the impact you can have on a community and an organization as Chief of Police is something that really drives me and really, spurns me to move forward and kind of, make a modern police service for the community of Edmonton. And it's really important for us to continue to take that journey. I think that there's a level of trust in police, but what is always declining is confidence that we're not acting legitimately, that we're not meeting the needs of the community. And I think it's really important for us to understand that. And I think that just to even be able to sit here and talk about it today causes me to reflect on the things that we need to do as a service to improve that. So,
okay, so
I think in the past, and when I look at law enforcement as an industry, there hasn't been a lot of trust in policing from the Black community at times. And I think it's important for us to understand what that means, why that has occurred, and what are the things we need to do to correct it. So how do we have two-way communication? What are the programs that we can develop, especially with youth, to create trust within policing and within their community? I know something that's been very contentious to the Black community in the past has been the school resource officer program. So again, it wasn't just forging ahead and saying we need to do this or build this program. It was really sit down, look at community engagement, understand the concerns, try to either address those concerns or demystify them, I think is important. I think the Edmonton Police Service, as modern as we are and innovative in a lot of ways, we're still very traditional in a lot of things. So we haven't really kept up, I think, unfortunately, with the different languages. How can someone from a new community coming into Edmonton interact with the police service or report a crime? We actually make it difficult in a lot of ways because maybe we don't have the right people that can speak the right languages in our dispatch area. Our online reporting tool is only in English. So it's really starting to pick apart those things that are barriers and then build different ways for the community to connect. I think also, when some of
my next question is community engagement and creating networks and relationships in the Black community precisely has always been something that the police has been working hard to keep and maintain and sustain. Any thoughts to that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One is, and I'll start out by saying I think we recognize that our city is really growing. The population and the number of people coming to Edmonton is really increasing over the last couple of years. With that, obviously, comes a bunch of diverse communities. So I think the first part is to really understand what is the demographics and the makeup of Edmonton, who's in our community. Looking specifically as your question about the Black community, it's they're very diverse even within their own community. So different languages, different cultures, different origins, different traditions. So I think it's really important for us to create connections to the community, whether it's through different programs, through our equity diversity programs, and really understand law enforcement can't go it alone. We need the community to be engaged. So we have our Chiefs Community Council. So we stand that up. So we have representatives from different groups, different communities within the city of Edmonton to inform us what's working, what doesn't. It gives us an avenue too where we can reach out so that if we know that something's occurred within the city or something's occurred within policing that's a concern to the community, we now have a connection to them. So I think those are all very important things. I'd say we still have a long way to go. We're learning all the time. But it's definitely important as the city grows is to understand those concerns. With this large amount of immigration or people that have come to the city of Edmonton, both from across Canada as well as around the world, it requires us to be agile and change. So, I reflect on things like what are we training in our recruit training? So do they understand diverse cultures? Do they understand diverse traditions? Do they recognize that sometimes that there's a lack of trust in police from certain communities? How do we bridge that?
So in Edmonton as a whole, are there anything you're going to change, fix, tweak from the, at least you've had some time now in the job and you've seen everything?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. The first thing I look at is I think that as a police service, we've become very reactive in our community. I come from an era of policing. I was a foot patrol officer and patrol officer. Like, we had very, what's the word I'm trying to think? Very specific kind of ideas about community policing. So we would be in the community, we would be creating connections. Even as a patrol constable, I look back almost 25 years ago, I had a relationship with one of the junior high schools in North Edmonton, right? And it was kind of encouraged at that time as police officers to kind of build those connections to community. As a beat officer, we worked very closely with our community to understand the problems. And I think as a service, we moved away from that a bit, especially during the pandemic. And so it's getting back to those ideas of community policing. How do we really, customer service is an important topic we're having in the Edmonton Police Service. So it's everything from when somebody calls our dispatch center, are they being heard? How are our police officers responding, dealing with problems? How are we conducting investigations? Those are all things that I think we're very focused on. And again, just improving that kind of interaction, with the city of Edmonton and citizens. Since it's topical and since you're here, one of the things we focus on is diversity in our organization. That's a big goal for us, diversity in our leadership team. And really starting to get out to the community, ensuring that the Edmonton Police Service, by its makeup and its people, represents the community at large. And that also is something that we talk about quite often and, informs a lot of our strategies around recruiting and training.
Okay, you seem to touch some of the stuff that came up also on the campaign trail that just finished yesterday or today. So the last thing, is anything else you want to add?
We're looking at a lot of different programs and how we're getting out in the community, the things that we're doing differently. And Edmonton is a rapidly growing city. I'm always staggered by the numbers, like 1.2 million people now, and predicted to be another whatever in the next decade, right? There's a lot of opportunity and there's a lot of growth in Edmonton, and so that forces us as a police service to change and evolve, because where not only is it big with a lot of demand, it's a very diverse community now. Like, there is, this city has become a very diverse city in Canada, and it puts different needs and demands on a police service to look at things like how are we representing the community from a recruiting perspective and having those conversations. How are we, like our interpreter programs that we have in police communications, we have like an interpreter program because we know that not everybody can speak English and people are calling in and we need to be able to respond to that. Looking at new online reporting tools in 2026 that rather than being just in English, come in 35 different languages and dialects, because that's what the community represents. And I think that speaks greatly to not only how we're growing as a service, but how do we want to improve the trust and confidence in policing in our community. And I think that is always the fine balance. That is always the kind of tightrope that we walk, right? Of like, police legitimacy is like having the community trust us and also having the community have confidence in what we can do. So those are my thoughts about 2025 and a little bit of 26. So yeah. Or, going back to some of our roots and saying like, we recognize a need to really become those ambassadors of community policing in Edmonton. What we've heard from our community at large is they want to see the police. They want the police to be involved in the community problems. And for whatever reason, whether it was through the pandemic and through COVID, through the defund era of the last 5 years, we moved away from that principle of like being visible and present in our community. So we started to roll those plans out, and I think that's been very successful. We're seeing a real great engagement from our membership that wants to do that, and we're seeing some really good outcomes, from a crime management perspective about how we're starting to reduce crime in certain parts of the city that have been, victimized or hit with those kind of systemic disorder issues and crime problems that have plagued their communities just by changing how we deploy and how we work. So I think that's very optimistic. I think the last thing I'd like to talk about is, the team we have here and how well everyone seems to be working together towards that common cause of public safety in Edmonton. So inside the service, everyone is identifying with this need to push this kind of mandate forward, whether it's at an executive level, at the street frontline level, or in our civilian support teams, everybody's behind this. And then again, that just extends into that optimism in the community that sees like a police force or police agency or police service that wants to get out and do things differently and support the community and provide that service, I think, that Edmontonians expect. So that's been kind of my thoughts on 2025.
Please introduce yourself.
So good morning. My name is Warren Driechel. I'm the new Chief of Police for the Edmonton Police Service. Give you a little bit of background about myself. I've been with the police service for almost 29 years complete. In the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to serve as a deputy chief in our Community Safety and Wellbeing Bureau. And, when Chief McPhee announced his retirement last year, and, when he left the organization in February of 2025, I took over as one of the interim chiefs, myself and Deputy Chief Devin Laforce. We shared the role for almost 8 months, I believe. And then, the competition for chief occurred, and, I was the successful recipient of the chief job, and I've been here almost 3 months now as the chief.
So how will you rank the year so far? At least you've been chief and co-chief. How will you rate the year? How well has it been for the police, or what are the challenges?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been a pretty good year. 2025 was, I think it was a mixed bag of things. And I'll start out with saying, I think there was like that whole idea of like a leader leaving the organization and then new leaders stepping in. So there's always there's like a mix of emotions within the organization itself, right? There's fear of the unknown, there's that what's gonna happen next. And then at the same time, there's this kind of optimism that there's, always with new leaders comes change. And so some people are craving that. So I think there was a mix of how people felt about the transition. I think optics wise, internally as well as I think externally, there was a lot of questions about how it would work with two interim chiefs. It actually worked quite well. And, myself and Deputy Chief Laforce, we're good friends. We've been co-workers for a number of years. We think very similar about where we want to take the organization. So it was kind of one of the biggest social experiments in policing. I like to think it was a bit of a success, where we did actually move things forward, even in an interim role. There were some things that had to get done in this organization in terms of leading change in the city, and I think we accomplished that.
Any message for the holidays, Christmas, or those who are not celebrating Christmas for the holidays? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I think that, we want people to go out, we want people to celebrate, we want them to be safe. I really want Edmontonians to kind of embrace, what 2025 has been and look forward to 2026. The city has some challenges in front of it, but I think that it's not just us that are going, they're going to rise up to greet this or to meet these challenges. And we really want to work with our communities to figure out, how do we make Edmonton, one of the safest, most vibrant kind of cities in Canada and North America. And, it's the strength of our people within the police service. It's the strength of our people in our communities that are going to really work towards this thing. And so just want people to really embrace that moving into 2026 and really look forward to working with everybody to meet these challenges.